Welcome back to the weekly Education Pulse, your one-stop shop for the biggest stories in global education. I'm Tony, and I'm joined as always by Sammy.
Well, let's get stuck in, Tony. We're going from Saudi Arabia to Rwanda, Malaysia to Hong Kong. It's a global lineup this week.
We kick off in Saudi Arabia, where EtonHouse International Education Group has launched its first K-12 campus in Riyadh.
Now, EtonHouse is no newcomer. They operate over 100 schools in more than 12 countries, primarily across Asia, with their HQ being in Singapore. This marks their official entry into the Gulf market, a move aligned with Vision 2030 and Saudi Arabia's ambitions to diversify and globalize its educational offerings.
And with this launch, they're promising an inquiry-based bilingual curriculum.
And then over in Rwanda, Silver Bells International School has announced it will launch a secondary section to complement its existing early and primary education offerings.
Based in Kigali, the school is responding to demand from parents who want a consistent education pathway right through high school into graduation.
Yeah, this is a pattern we've seen across many emerging markets where standalone primary and nursery schools are now building out into full K-12 campuses to retain students and grow their revenue streams.
And next up is Cognita, the global schools group, has announced it's partnering with Flint Global to integrate AI-driven personalised learning across its global network of schools.
Yeah, the collaboration will introduce Flint's AI tutor called Flint Learning Companion, giving students personalized adaptive support.
There's another example of how AI is being strategically piloted and then implemented into schools, not to replace teachers, but to augment learning and give students a bit more control over the pace and content.
And with that, let's talk about Cambrilearn, the online international school platform that's made waves in the digital education space. They've now added the US curriculum to their offerings, positioning themselves as the most comprehensive online school globally.
It's a big claim, but with the British, South African, and now US curricula, plus a global student base, they're arguably getting there. It reflects a wider trend of families seeking flexibility and curriculum choice in their online schooling models. Right, now over to Hong Kong, where a private primary school closure has left more than 200 parents unsure if they'll recover their debenture payments, some as high as 120,000 Hong Kong dollars.
It's a stark reminder of how financial risks in education don't just hit schools, they hit families. Debentures are common in Hong Kong's private school landscape, and this case could spark regulatory scrutiny or changes in policy.
It raises questions about transparency of school financial models, and something we'll dig into in future episodes. I did see that there's also had some of the government suggesting that they want to push for more regulation.
And moving from Hong Kong to Malaysia, where there's big news and building on the announcement we made in the last episode, well, Sunway International Schools and Magdalen College School Oxford have announced a collaboration to deliver a British-style education experience in Malaysia.
Right, we announced last time that Magdalen College would be entering Bangkok, now expanding in further areas of Southeast Asia by announcing their new venture in Malaysia. The partnership will bring UK teaching philosophy and leadership training to Malaysia's K-12 sector and will offer IGCSE and A-level with input from Magdalen College team.
Yeah, another example of how UK schools are shaping emerging education markets through brand licensing, training, and governance.
And now to Vietnam. KinderWorld International Group and real estate giant Novaland are partnering to roll out education developments in Dong Nai province.
The aim? To build full-fledged education hubs, combining early years, K-12, and potentially even tertiary programs integrated within urban residential developments.
And this is the school as an anchor strategy where quality education drives property value and community appeal. We're seeing this across Southeast Asia.
And to wrap up the news, Pearson has just announced a major partnership with Google Cloud to develop the next generation of AI-powered tools for learners and educators.
aiming to integrate Google's machine learning into Pearson's digital products, such as MyLab, Mastering and Revel, to create a more adaptable, personalised learning experience.
It's a bold move, and it shows just how seriously the traditional giants are taking the AI disruption in education.
And that wraps up our global education headlines this week. From policy shifts to tech revolutions, this sector never sleeps.
And neither do we. Stay with us as we go back into our series, The Business Behind the School.
Welcome back to The Business Behind the School, where we go beyond the classroom to explore what really keeps international schools running.
Yeah, we're digging into something every school leader either dreads or nerds out on: the budget.
Specifically, how do you make your school budget resilient? Not just a spreadsheet for the board meeting, but a working strategic tool that can absorb surprises, support growth, and still keep the lights on.
Let's start with a common trap we've both seen: budgeting off of last year's numbers. At 3% for inflation and we're done. Sound familiar?
Too familiar. And it's what we call incremental budgeting. Quick and simple, but it risks entrenching inefficiencies. If something didn't work last year, why are we funding it again?
Well, the alternative: zero-based budgeting. Every line item has to earn its place. You justify each cost from the ground up. I mean, it's more work, but it's a real eye-opener, especially in departments that have been running on autopilot.
But whichever method you use, it has to be aligned with your enrolment projections. Too often, schools build an ambitious budget based on best-case enrolment scenarios, but then spend the rest of the year playing catch-up.
And in international schools, you've got another layer: FX risk and inflation. There are places where local currencies have dropped 20% against the dollar or the British pound mid-year. So if your teachers are on dollar contracts or other currencies, that's not just a headache, that's a crisis you've got there.
Absolutely. And that's why resilient budgets include contingency lines, regular reforecasting, and ideally a dashboard that leadership check monthly, not just once a year.
Then there's restricted income, capital contributions, donations, grants. You've got to keep these separate, track their usage, and avoid the temptation to treat them like general funds.
And let's not forget stakeholder buy-in. One of the best budgeting models I've seen involved heads of department owning their lines. They understood the limits and where they were accountable for how the funds were being used.
Yeah, completely agree with that one. It creates ownership and makes it easier to say no when necessary, because the process was transparent, not just a spreadsheet handed down from the tower above.
So to wrap up, a resilient budget is firstly strategic, data informed, aligned to enrolment and mission, flexible enough to adapt, and built by a team, not just a finance manager.
Yeah, and if you can achieve that, your school's not just financially stable, it's agile, future ready, and making smarter decisions. That's a real win.
Thanks again for tuning in this week. That brings our episode to a close.
Thanks everyone out there. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back again next week. Till then, see you next time.